Week 4, and that Friday night thrill still remains. And good thing too, because each week from here on out gets more important than the last. As the air gets colder, we start to find out which teams are truly hot. Tonight we've got conference clashes, Cavs in Columbus, and the closing to a really cool story. Whatever you're hungry for, Gridiron Glory is here to fill you up. And it starts right now. Welcome back into Studio A. It's great to have you with us for another episode of Gridiron Glory. I'm your host, Blake Baker. Beside me, co-host Noah Wolf. 5 weeks down for us, 4 weeks down for the guys on the Gridiron. Noah, what have we learned so far?
I think the only thing we've really learned is what we already expected. We're in for a season of chaos on the field. We've seen it all. Close rivalry games, big upsets, powerhouses dominating, but also some underdogs emerging. And
you love to see it. I do think we're in store for that for the rest of the season. But let's kick it off with the MVL tonight. In the MVL, Crooksville needs to gain some momentum this season, and the Tri-Valley Scotties had the task of halting it. MVL reporter Joe Hennessy was there and is now in the red zone.
Yeah, Blake, Crooksville tried to get something going on the ground, but could barely move the ball. Tri-Valley took advantage of their opportunities early and often in this game, and the score showed that when the final whistle blew. Now, I know when we think about ceramics, you think about delicacy, 2 hands on them at all times, but this mascot says, nah, let's go. Luke Fargas says, all right, sounds good. Screen pass to Carson Sipkins up the left sideline. Makes a man miss, keeps his feet trucking right there, 49 yards. He is taken down. 2 plays later, Luke Fargas rolling out to his left, finds Keaton Williams wide open in the end zone. Tri-Valley up 7-0 early. After a punt from Crooksville and another touchdown from Tri-Valley, David Chapman fumbles on his own 15. 2 more Scotties touchdowns. Tri-Valley is leading 28-0 early in the second quarter, but the Ceramics are not giving up yet. Michael Ballman up the middle off this kickoff. It takes more than just a kicker to get him down. It takes 3 Tri-Valley defenders right here to get him down. 45 yards later, he is taken down. This is the first time Crooksville passed their 25-yard line. It was a solid drive after that, but it ended with an easy interception to Blake Sands of Tri-Valley up the right sideline. He's looking for blockers, but he doesn't find the end zone, but it's all good. 38 yards later, after an interception by Crooksville to give Tri-Valley the ball again, Luke Fargas gets hit in the arm right there. Interception up the right sideline. No good though. They would lose at home. Crooksville would 49-0. Now, Fargas finished 12 of 18 with 168 yards, 3 touchdowns and 1 interception. But I'm going to send it over to the film room for a more in-depth breakdown from Rebecca Markovitz and Noah.
Thanks, Joe. Rebecca, Tri-Valley is certainly a powerhouse from what we just saw. How did the Scotties break the Ceramics?
Well, what we saw tonight was no different than what we've seen so far this season. Scotty domination. It was just touchdown after touchdown, scoring on every drive in the first quarter alone. Luke Fargas didn't have a whole lot of pressure in the pocket, and with that, favored the pass for most of the game. The Scotties offense was able to spread out the Ceramic defense for Fargas to quickly find his teammates.
Who were Fargas's go-to men?
The thing about Tri-Valley is they are a deep team. It wasn't just 1 or 2 players carrying the offense. It was Carson Simpkins, Keaton Williams, and Jordan Pantaleo. All of them, including Fargas, had at least 2 touchdowns on the board.
One of our reporters talked to Crooksville's coach Casey Valley earlier in the week about this game, and he said this was a big guys versus little guys situation.
It certainly was. Crooksville is not as deep of a team as Tri-Valley is. They've been starting freshman Noah Dickerson at quarterback and have been struggling a bit with without Caden Miller, who tore his ACL in a scrimmage.
So how do you think Dickerson and the rest of the team have been handling the adjustments?
They are definitely still experimenting. In the first quarter, the Ceramics tried the running game and were only throwing screens. They changed their quarterback a couple times for a couple plays, but then stuck with Dickerson. Dickerson seemed to become more confident with throwing in the second quarter, but the Ceramics finished with only 50 passing yards and negative rushing yards. The Ceramics still have yet to win a game. As for Tri-Valley, they are once again trotting in undefeated territory.
Thanks, Rebecca. The fastest source for information right now has to be Twitter. Here at Gridiron Glory, we use Twitter for all sorts of things. From Monday through Thursday, catch our exclusive content, interviews, previews, and teases to get you ready for the week's action. And on Friday night, we've got live scoring updates as they happen. So give @Gridiron Glory a follow on Twitter to stay in the know. Staying in the MVL, the John Glenn Little Muskies are in desperate need of a victory. They welcome the Philo Electrics, and MVL reporter Nick Orsini joins me live from Muskingum University in New Concord.
Noah, a loss for John Glenn tonight means they dropped to 1-3 overall and 0-2 in conference play. Desperate times call for desperate measures, and tonight this one went down to the final minute to decide this one. Hot and humid tonight makes for an old-school clash between two of the MVL's best. On Philo's first possession, running back Casey Munyon converts a 4th and 6 to keep the chains moving. Philo did not find the end zone, but broke the tie with a field goal midway through the first, 3-0. After a John Glenn 3-and-out, Hunter Adolph connects with Aaron Phillip over the middle, 20 yards, tack on another 15 for a hit to the helmet, but that drive would stall. John Glenn, desperate for offense, gets it from their star receiver and punt returner Joseph Clifford. Makes a few defenders miss and dives his way to the Philo 44-yard line, setting up their offense. 3 plays later, Evan Williams finds Reese Perkins streaking down the left sideline. Touchdown, John Glenn. They grab the lead 7-3 with 50 seconds left in the first half. Philo's going to turn the ball over on the ensuing kickoff with a fumble, but the very next play, Williams, he's picked off by Elijah Preston, and he brings this one all the way back to the 15-yard line. Philo adds a field goal, 7-6 at halftime. John Glenn with Philo getting the ball back to start the third. Nothing going on in the third quarter. Fast forward to the fourth. After Hunter Adolph picked off Williams, his third interception of the night, Aaron Phillip caps off the drive with a touchdown. Philo's only one of the night. 2-point conversion was no good, but no worries. That's your winner, 15-13. Philo, classic barn burner here at McConaughey.
A defensive slugfest tonight in New Concord. These offensive have the chance to light up the scoreboard, but tonight was clearly not a good night for the offensive side of the ball.
No, it was clear that the tone of this game was set very early on. It was clear there was not going to be a lot of passing in this game, but the running game, it really didn't get effective until the second half. Both teams relied on Casey Munyon and Brady Emerson to carry their offenses, but the defensive lines were up to the challenge tonight. Just before halftime, there was a 20-minute delay in the action because the refs could not decide on the spot of the football after an interception and offsetting penalties. The fans from both sides started chanting, "Let them play, let them play." And both Coach Edwards and Coach Lincecum were furious at the refs.
It's tough enough to win a conference game, let alone when the refs are getting in the way. How did this affect both teams?
Both teams had their momentum stopped. Philo didn't grab the lead until 3 minutes and 30 seconds left in the game, yet John Glenn had a chance in the end. They forced a turnover in Philo's red zone. They got the touchdown on 4th down, but the 2-point conversion was knocked down. Evan Williams turned the ball over 4 times, and it was that classic Philo defense getting it done when they needed to. Mission 1 accomplished tonight for Philo as they return home next week to face Tri-Valley with a trip to Sheridan the following week. As for John Glenn, they travel down the road to face the Meigsville Panthers.
Philo continues their toughest stretch of the season. Good start to it tonight from the Electrics. Nick, thanks for the good work and get home safe. Like these two teams, Bishop Hartley also made a regional final run last season. Tonight, one team in our coverage traveled to Columbus for a date with the 4-time state champion Hawks.
No, it's a date the Cavs circled after last season's 37-point loss at home. So we sent FAC reporter Will Collins to Columbus to see some possible vengeance for Chillicothe.
Blake, tonight's matchup was a defensive slugfest from the start in a game that both Chillicothe and Bishop Hartley came ready to play in, but it was their last meeting for the foreseeable future. Now, Chillicothe got to take a trip up to Jack Ryan Field to take on Division III powerhouse Bishop Hartley. Getting things started for the Cavs is Adrian Beverly, who dumps off this little swing pass to Jaquan Harris for a first down in the red zone. Just a play later, Adrian Beverly's knocking on the door but doesn't get in. Not to fear though, Cavs fans, Tice Netter takes it in from 1 yard out, 7-0 Chillicothe early in the first. After a stalled Bishop Hartley drive, Harris once again takes this swing pass, moves up the sideline, but the Chillicothe drive stalls. 2 plays later, Miles Fleming drops back and throws a pass up for Bishop Hartley that gets picked off by Joey Wright, setting up the Cavs, who then again go 3 and out. And the punt snap then goes over Jaquan Harris's head. He picks it up, he runs with it, doesn't get the yards needed, which sets up this run from Jalen January. Look how powerful he is as he runs in on this 21-yard score. The game's tied at 7-all. Philip Cole's toting the rock now for Bishop Hartley, which sets up them in the red zone again. Miles Fleming under center. He's looking, he rolls around, he finds Jordan Kirkbride in the end zone for an 8-yard score, 14-7 Bishop Hartley. Early in the third, after a field goal by Chillicothe to end the second, Marcellus Parker takes this one in. It's 21-10 then, 49-10 was the final, Blake.
Well, it sounds like this one was a defensive slugfest in the first half. Take me through that hard-hitting affair.
The pads were popping in this game tonight, Blake. Chillicothe was flying around, and so was Bishop Hartley. The first 2 quarters of this game were characterized by gritty, hard-nosed football, where each team was working to grind out the yards they needed.
And from what you said in the newsroom, it was that way right off the bat.
Absolutely. Chillicothe's defense dealt the first blow on the opening play of the game, forcing a Bishop Hartley fumble, but the Hawks would make the Cavs run 10 plays for 23 yards before the Cavs could score from a yard out. Bishop Hartley showed their defensive prowess in both the passing and running games tonight by shutting down long passes and by bottling up Adrian Beverly and Jaquan Harris.
So if both the defenses played well, what do you think proved to be the deciding factor in tonight's game?
That factor, Blake, was the punishing run game of Bishop Hartley. They run the ball downhill well for 2, 3, 4 yards a pop, and they just keep pounding the rock. They run the ball well between the tackles powerfully, and their sweeps on the outside are blocked well, which gives the running backs room to pick up speed and break free. After a while, it begins to wear defenses down, and that's exactly what the Hawks did to Chillicothe tonight. They wore out the Cavs play-by-play, consistently returning to punishing running back Jalen January. Blake, despite the loss, the Cavaliers still have a lot to look forward to with FAC play coming up.
Certainly do. And a key matchup for Chillicothe, Will. Thanks for going out and covering that one for us tonight. We've been wanting to show one of these, and we finally got one to work with. And I tell you what, those Trimble boys know how to flex on a Friday. 11 deep in this one. They got enough to field a side of the ball here. Todd, thank you for the snap. And next week, this could be you. DM Gridiron Glory for your best snap by next Friday's show for a chance to appear on an episode of our show. And now it's time for the final part of the Spartan series. Brand journalist Nate Busilla joins me to close this one out.
Part 3, Blake. The record, the legacy of a dear friend, it's all led to this.
I don't know if words can describe what's going through your head and through the community of Alexander High School right now.
Well, I don't know if words can describe it either, Larry. This is awesome.
Back in the 70s, the mid-70s, when Alexander had their last really good run of teams, and I was a player at Trimble at the time, and Alexander each year in and year out was one of the best teams we played on our schedule at that time, and that was their theme. That's kind of when the song came out, the Back in Black song, and that was kind of one of the themes they used. When we started the season out well in '99, it was great to be able to kind of bring back some of that nostalgia and try to get that excitement going again in the program.
You started to see people who didn't have kids playing. I mean, it was just the community, anybody showing up to the game, and your people are clapping for you on your way to the field house 3 hours, 4 hours before the game even starts.
This Alexander team has quite a future when all their walking wounded return next year.
To start off 4-0 and have all this talk, possibly state playoff and the community excitement, and then to drop 6 games, due to injury. Looking back on it now, one of the things I'm most proud of, I never seen effort slack. It was always playing to the best of your ability, and until the fourth quarter was over, we just went hard.
Being part of a small community, I get a little bit different perspective because kids where we're from, they play multiple sports to fill the team.
And you realize how big of a part these guys were of your own development in life. It's pretty cool.
The amount of memories that come back up and the amount of importance you start to remember that some of that stuff had, and the lessons you learned that you didn't know.
People in Southeastern Ohio love their sports and they love their football, and it's been great to be a part of it. And every Friday night during the fall is very meaningful to me even now.
Interesting enough, Blake, that year, Alexander beat Athens for the first time in school history. And afterwards, broadcaster Larry Hurd just said he wouldn't be surprised if Coach Holbert was asked to be the Grand Marshal at the Independent Parade Fair that year. And I know it's a silly little anecdote, but I think it just goes on to show how much football means to this community.
So much so they might have had that in their mindsets tonight when Alexander and Athens played. Nate, thank you a lot for the great story. Appreciate it. Nate's saga is finally complete, and he'll have the extended version of all 3 parts of that Spartan series on YouTube. Search WOUB PBS into YouTube and find our Gridiron Glory playlist and just go nuts. Through 4 weeks of games, we're starting to pile up the content. Each week, we have some previews, and you can find all our past shows in one place. That place, again, WOUB PBS on YouTube. Last week, Meigs failed to hold a lead and lost late. Vinton County followed up a 1-point win with a shutout loss. So both these teams needed a rebound. TVC Ohio reporter Jacob Murray saw who got one tonight.
Blake, this is the first matchup in the TVC Ohio for both of these teams. Meigs is still looking for win number 1 on the season, while Vinton County is trying to get back into the race for the top of the conference. It's a battle for bragging rights in this TVC Ohio rivalry. The band was pumping up this home crowd with their march onto the field as they were ready for this heated rivalry. Meigs Cole Adams takes this opening kickoff up the field for a great run, thinking his way to the Viking 36, giving the Marauders great field position. However, a bad snap would force the Marauders out of that great spot, but they would make up for it. 2 plays later, Coulter Cleland finds his man Ty Bartram for the 15-yard touchdown to put them up 7-0. But with a young quarterback, you get the good and the bad, as Cleland fumbles the ball and the Vikings would take over deep in the red zone. Fullback Logan Baker would bully his way into the end zone a couple plays later to tie the game up at 7-all. Later in the second quarter we go, and Cleveland connects with Landon Ackery for the big gain right here. He would be stopped at the 13-yard line. You know what they say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. As on the very next play, Cleveland finds Ackery again, this time for the 13-yard touchdown to bring it closer 14-13. Under a minute left in the first half, 2-minute drill time for the Marauders as Cleveland finds Bartram again for the big play right here to put them in the red zone. Now time is at 0 here, and defensive tackle Trafford Dunn chases down Cleveland for a big sack to end the half. This game was a battle into overtime, where Meigs took the win in this one 27-21.
There you have it. Meigs gets over the hump, and defensively, they made Vinton County look one-dimensional, didn't they?
Yeah, that's right, Blake. All Vinton County wanted to do tonight was run the ball, as they didn't have a single pass attempt until the fourth quarter. The Vikings' running game was on full display yet again, with big plays by Cade Seidner and Logan Baker. Big runs to the outside and pounding runs up the middle helped move the ball against a tired defense in that first half. They didn't use the play action as much as maybe their coach might have wanted to, and this might have led to their downfall in the end.
Vinton County was heavy on that run game. Tell me about the Marauders' threat through the air.
This young Marauder gunslinger was making plays all over the field tonight, getting the ball out to his array of weapons and also using his legs very effectively. These plays gave the Meigs offense good momentum and would eventually help Meigs come out on top.
So back to the final. Meigs pulled it out for win number 1. What did they do this week to maintain a lead they couldn't hold last week?
Meigs was able to hold on in this one with some big stops by their defense, something they could not do a week ago. They held the Vikings to very few passing yards for the game and held up against this heated, where both sides take.
So it's a definite win for Meigs. Good one for them. They definitely got over the hump with that. Defense looked good. Running game looked good, just like you mentioned the first time around. And that passing game, they're starting to get the threat in Coulter Cleveland. You said you got the good with the bad. The fumble comes, but he's learning. He's a freshman. He will get better. Jacob, thank you very much for attending this game. We love going for the extra point, so here's 2 more of them. Ethan Sands, Nick Mullins, they're both TVC reporters. They're going to run down 1 Ohio game and 1 Hocking game. Ethan, let's start with you, my man.
On the Ohio side, Nelsonville, York, and River Valley both came into tonight in search of their first win, and they have struggled, Blake. These guys have combined for 20 points in 3 games this season. Even worse, both teams give up more than 31 points each game. So despite a forgettable first 3 weeks, both teams are in desperate need of an upswing. The River Valley Raiders came into the game hyped up and looked to keep Nelsonville on their losing streak. But the Buckeyes looked like they had a sense of redemption, and this was the perfect game to do it. The Buckeyes scored more points in this game than they have all season, and they did it in just the first half. In the first quarter, Nelsonville focused on their aerial assault, as Mikey Seal had 99 yards and 2 touchdowns to his favorite receivers. But don't let me forget special teams. They stepped up for the offense, putting the ball into Mikey Seal's hands, and it didn't matter if it was through the air or on the ground. But the Buckeyes switched their approach and went with the ground and pound in the second quarter. Keegan Wilburn, 33 yards on 5 attempts with a score. Seal kept the ball for himself 6 times and ran for 23 yards total. The Raiders had a solo mindset on offense in the first half, as they ran the ball a total of 18 times and threw the ball just 3 times. They had a touchdown on the ground and through the air before we had a lead in the first half. The Raiders definitely had some bright spots from Lane Fitch, Jared Reese, and Trevor Simpson. Other than a goal line touchdown from Colton Gilmore, these 3 did everything for River Valley, especially Reese. He had 27 yards on 3 rushes, but that's all he did. He had a touchdown reception for 8 yards out. There were 2 big positives in this one. The Raiders quadrupled their scoring for their entire season, and the Buckeyes got on the winning column.
Well, good work, Ethan. I promised some Hawking coverage too, so Nick, I turn to you. I hear you took a trip across the border.
Yeah, Blake, I headed down to West Virginia to catch the Battle of the Birds, the Wahama White Falcons and the Belpre Golden Eagles. Now, both teams' mascots may be a bird, but Wahama had a goat in the house, and not LeBron, not MJ, no, a real goat in their stands. Now, Wahama might have had the goat, but Belpre had Jesse Collins. After an early touchdown from Collins, it was 6-0 lead after the first quarter, and he would not let up. This man was untouchable all night. 82 might not be a typical running back number, but don't be fooled. Belpre had a real deal in the backfield. After an 0-3 start, Wahama was still looking for their first score of the year. Their scoreless streak came to an end when Abram Polly found Tanner Smith on the slant route, who seized the daylight for the long TD to start the second quarter. Just when Wahama was closing in, there's that man. The cameraman might lose Collins for a second at the same time as Wahama's defense, but be warned, hand tackles were not going to bring down him tonight. Belpre led 20-6 with just under 11 minutes to play in the second quarter. Collins wasn't just doing it on the offensive side of the ball. He and the Belpre's defense was a force. They disrupted the backfield and passing lanes most of the night. The Falcons were picking up big yards on the air and ground, but not inconsistent enough to sustain drives. Going into half, Belpre led 34-6, and the White Falcons were able to close out 41-22. Collins scored all 6 of Belpre's touchdowns.
Whoa, all 6? Was there anything this man couldn't do?
Nope. He had 5 on the ground and a pick 6. He single-handedly took over this one, Blake, and now 2 Belpre will head to Fed Hawk next week. And the winless White Falcons took some baby steps, scoring 21 points, but will need to build off going into next week against Southern.
Well, thanks a lot, fellas. Good look at the TVC. There's a little friendly rivalry developing with our tweet of the week this week. Superfan Paul Roth went right at our producer Tyler Corbett after Paul picked 6 of tonight's games correctly. These two do their best Swami impression every Thursday on Newswatch, WOUB's flagship broadcast. Check them out. Paul, well done, and thank you for the tweet. There was a whole lot of purple and race seen this evening. Southern fans feel comfortable at home, and Miller fans traveled once more before 3 games of the home on their own. Spoiler, our fan of the week was in purple. Peyton and I are here, Southern High School, Southern Tornadoes versus Miller Falcons. So you guys are the grill masters over here.
Yep.
You said you'd lift the foil up for us. What do you got going on over here?
We got Bahama Mama sausages and mild sausage.
And how popular is all this over here?
Very popular.
So this seemed like a person we needed to talk to. Why do you think that is?
Because I yell.
Do you yell during the games? Do you yell before the game as well?
I usually, yeah.
Go! Go Falcons! Everybody yell! Go Falcons!
Go Falcons! Gene, I got some news for you, my friend. You're our fan of the week this week, but I got one condition. One condition. You got to showcase that yell you were telling me about earlier. Full strength. I can't hold back.
Hey, Tornadoes!
Next week, we got a special location for you for Fan of the Week, so stay tuned. This season, Southern is 2-0 at home. Miller hasn't won on the road, but has taken 2 of the last 3 in this series. It's a heavy hitter in the Hawking, and it had to be our game of the week. And for this big game, we sent Hawking reporter Nick Niehaus out there. Nick, how you doing, my man?
Oh, great, Blake. I have been itching to see this Tornadoes team. They felt pretty disrespected that I put them 4th in the preseason rankings because they think they have a really good chance at the Hawking title. Logan Drummer warming up. Good idea because he's going to be using that arm a whole bunch tonight. Not even the first play, but the kickoff. Brody Dutton up the middle. No one can touch him until the kicker finally gets up to him, but he's in his own territory, setting up great field position from this drummer to Trey McNichol. We're not even 30 seconds into the game, and it is 7-0. Colby Bartley trying to get something started for Miller. He launches this one, but finds the wrong man. Chase Bailey with the tip and the grab, and this one's going the other way. He's running up the sideline, gets great field position as he's knocked out at the 40. Trey McNichol, now just wait for this. Check out that stiff arm. He says, get off me, and he's free up the sideline, makes it 14-0. Get that man some water. Okay, good. Trey McNichol, I shouldn't even have to tell you, Blake, who's going to score this? I just said his name, actually. Another stiff arm and another free run up the sideline to the end zone. They're running away with this one. It is 21-0. It's getting out of hand. Colby Bartley, he's trying to get something started, and he finds his man Bladen Cox. Check out that diving grab, crazy. And they connect once more, this time 15 yards out for the touchdown, cutting that lead 21-13. And Logan Drummer, what a crazy throw on the run. And we got to speed this one up because that was 75 yards long as they took this one 58-13. The cheerleaders, they were tired after this one.
Yeah, clearly a pretty one-sided game out there in Racine. Even when we left from Fan of the Week, they had already scored. We just got in the car.
Yeah, the announcer, he said that there was a tornado warning, and he wasn't kidding around. I mean, it was, in my time with Gridiron Glory, Blake, this was the greatest passing performance I have ever seen. Now, Logan Drummer, he had an absolute night slinging the ball, and he was doing it on the run most of the time. He threw 6 touchdowns. Those receivers for Southern were great at creating space. Miller just couldn't guard them.
Yeah, and you add that to McNichols' crazy performance. That's a tough team to stop.
Yeah, they've got weapons on weapons. McNichols simply couldn't get tackled by just a single Miller defender. It took at least a couple to bring him down. That's a strong runner right there. One major weapon they have is their coach, Cassidy Wilford. It's his first year with the Tornadoes, and he's perfect so far. You can just tell the kids love playing for him. They'd run through a brick wall for this coach. He kept the Miller defense guessing all night. They ran everything from jet sweeps to screens to play action deep balls. This Southern offense could do no wrong.
So they couldn't do any wrong, but what was wrong with Miller's offense?
I just didn't really see much variation from them. They'd pound the ball at the middle, and Southern just wasn't ever fooled. This Southern team, not only do they have the Hawking title in their sights, Blake, this is a playoff team that I just saw tonight.
Well, starting the season 4-0 is a good way to get there. Thank you, Nick. So next week marks the halfway point of this season, and we're starting to think about the playoffs. All the games next week have serious implications. Some happening next week stood out to us in particular. First up, Alexander and Wellston. The Spartans are an even 2-2, and the Golden Rockets want a chance to right the ship. Another SEOAL rivalry. Chillicothe and Logan are locked at 7 wins apiece in their all-time series. And we'll see the 2 frontrunners in the MVL next week, but not against each other. Tri-Valley takes on Philo, and the Sheridan Generals travel to West Muskingum. The Rebels and Eagles got shut out tonight, but expect more points when those 2 meet next week. And if all goes to plan, you'll see Noah and a group of our reporters out of Wheelersburg High School for our game of the week.
Yeah, the Pirates will take on the Jackson Ironmen, and we're taking Gridiron on the road. Well, for the most part anyway. That game, a story on Wheelersburg state title, all that good stuff. Should be a great show for next Friday.
Absolutely. I'm really excited that we're doing this college game day style. And let's not forget about Trimble's hosting Cincinnati Hills Christian next week. Going to be their first home game out in Gloucester this season. I know you know how ready they are for that.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see the debut of this new and improved Gloucester Stadium. This community has been waiting a long time, and it's really exciting.
Yeah, they are certainly been waiting on that. Great community feel. I'm excited that we're going out there to see them next Saturday against a team that's pretty equivalent to them, you know, a team that they could really hang with. I'm excited to see Eastern next week. Wellston we haven't seen yet this season. We're getting a lot of new looks.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Got some big games in the MVL, big games throughout all of our coverage. It's going to be really exciting.
Absolutely. So we're going from Wheelersburg next week. You're going to have to tune in to see what that's all about. So for Noah, for myself, that's our closing of the show. We'll see you next week. Until then, remember, there's nothing better than Friday nights and Gridiron Glory.